It's Tuesday, January 30th. I am in Mount Pleasant, Iowa at the Henry County Courthouse, and the Board of Supervisors meeting is today at 10 a.m. We're going to go inside and hear what they have to say, what the citizens of Henry County have to say, and what the company that's going to bring a windmill farm to Henry County has to say. It's all on Southeast Iowa Today, brought to you by Griner Auto Body of Washington, Iowa, using state-of-the-art techniques and decades of experience to get your car back on the road after an accident. Car Doctor of Washington, Iowa. No matter who Frankensteined it, they can fix, clean, and customize it. McDonald Boneyard of Keota, Iowa, for all of your farm equipment and auto recycling needs. Hinshaw Trailer Sales. You need a trailer, they've got your trailer, and they fix what they sell and don't in their full-time repair shop. They're in Richland. Check them out. Girling Repair of Winfield, Iowa. If your mower is dead, call Fred, your Husqvarna, Ariens, and Gravely dealer. He also sells Husqvarna snowblowers, and he fixes all makes and models. B&B Propane and the family of jet stops present Southeast Iowa Today. I'm John Bain, author of Christie's Journey, The Beat Goes On, and your host. Let's get inside. It's a little chilly out here.
Chapter 2, Article 11-2 through 11-3, Alternate Energy Overlay District. I would entertain a motion to go into public hearing. Motion, is there a second?
There is a second.
There's a motion, a second on the floor. Any discussion? Hearing none, we are now in public hearing.
Thank you.
And for those of you here and can hear me, I'm going to read the proposed ordinance, although this is not officially the first reading. I just want to make everyone that is here aware of. So it's a public hearing, and the public hearing allows for comments to come from the public. And I feel with the number of people that are in attendance today, even though this is not an official reading of the ordinance, that is not scheduled yet, I am going to read. So you're going to have to bear with me. It's quite lengthy. An ordinance to amend Chapter 2, zoning ordinance of the Henry County Code of Ordinances adopted May the 9th, 1961, modifying Section 6-2-11-3 through 11-6 Alternate Energy Overlay District. Amending the Henry County Ordinance in Book 262 at page 1. Be it ordained by the Board of Supervisors of Henry County, Iowa as follows. Article 1, Section Modified, Title 6, Chapter 2, Article 11-2 through 11-6 shall be repealed entirely and replaced by the following. 6-2-11-2 Alternate Energy Overlay District. Parentheses A, Statement of Intent. The purpose of this section is to facilitate the construction, installation, and operation of facilities designed to generate energy from alternate sources to include commercial solar energy systems and commercial wind energy conversion systems in Henry County in a manner that promotes economic development, protects property values, and ensures the protection of health, safety, and welfare, while those avoiding adverse impacts to important areas such as agricultural lands, conservation lands, and other sensitive lands. This section does not repeal, abrogate, annul, impair, or interfere with any existing ordinance. 1. Information required to apply to rezone or alternate energy overlay district. A written summary of the project including a general description of the property and its appropriate generating capacity. B, the names, addresses, and phone numbers of the owner and CSES or CWECS, which is referenced back to the Commercial Solar Energy Systems, acronym or initials, and Commercial Wind Energy Conversion Systems. C, the interconnection agreement or the proposed form thereof if an interconnection agreement has not yet been executed. D, a site plan of the CSES or the CWECS site showing 1, boundaries of the site. 2, all proposed CSES or CWECS structures indicating the footprint of each structure and the height of the CSES measured to the top of the structure at maximum tilt, and the CWECS measured from the tower base to the highest reach of the rotor tip. 3. Property lines. 4. Setback measurements. 5. Location of all existing structures within the project area with their uses identified and an existing structure within 300 feet of the project area with their uses identified to include utility lines, telephone lines, or any other lines, both above and below ground within the property lines, or a radius of 200% of the tower height, whichever is greater. 6. Topographical lines, 2-foot contours, and 7. Floodplain location if applicable. 8. Location of all known communication towers facilities within 2 miles of the proposed CWECS. 9. Description of potential impacts on all nearby CSES, CWECS, and non-CWECS, and wind resources on adjacent properties. 10. Identification of significant migratory patterns and nesting areas for birds within 2 miles of the CWECS projects. 3. An acoustical analysis for CWECS. 2. Documentation of notification of the following agencies. A. Any reports from the agencies below are to be provided to the county 30 days prior to the first Planning and Zoning Commission public hearing on such matters. If nothing is received from the reviewing agencies within 120 days following a request to such agency, the permitting process will continue without such reports. For the purposes of this section, it is recommended that any issues be addressed prior to the public hearing. These agencies are the Federal Aviation Administration, the Federal Army Corps of Engineers, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, U.S. Bureau of Land Management, Iowa Department of Transportation, Iowa Department of Natural Resources, Iowa Utilities Board, Henry County Engineers Office, local EMS Fire and Rescue. Mount Pleasant Airport, if any portion of this project intersects areas defined by the local airport zoning ordinance. 6-2-11-3.
At that point, I mean, I'm asking, do you think we ought to give people a chance to address things up to this point,
No, I'm gonna read the whole ordinance, and then we'll
then go back to it? Okay.
take questions from the public. C-2-11-3, requirements for commercial solar energy systems within the alternate energy overlay district. 1. General requirements for CSES. Height shall not exceed 15 feet at maximum tilt of the solar panel. B. Setbacks. 1. The front yard setback shall be a minimum of 50 feet from the edge of the right-of-way which forms the outside perimeter of the CSES project area, and 100 feet from the residence that is part of the CSES project area. The Board of Adjustment may grant an exception to the setback requirement if the proposed or existing buffer is sufficient to screen the project from viewing of adjoining property or public right-of-way if the owners of the adjoining properties agree in writing to waive these setback requirements. 2. In the case of a CSES to be built on more than one parcel and parcels are abutting, a 0 side or rear setback shall be permitted to the property line in common with the abutting parcels. 3. Solar panels shall be at least 300 feet from a residence that is not part of the CSES project area. The Board of Adjustment may grant an exception to the setback requirement if the proposed or existing buffer is sufficient to screen the project from viewing of adjoining property or public right-of-way if the owners of the adjoining properties agree in writing to waive these setback requirements. 4. Solar panels shall be at least 80 feet from the state right-of-way and at least 60 feet from the county right-of-way. C. Screening. A landscape buffer may be required to be installed and maintained during the life of the operation. Determination of screening requirements will be made by the Board of Supervisors as part of the review and approval process and will be based on adjacent or nearby surrounding land uses and topography. D. Fencing. A security fence of at least 6 feet in height but no greater than 8 feet shall enclose the CSES to restrict access to public. Lighting. If lighting is provided for the CSES, lighting shall be shielded and downcast such that the light does not project directly onto the adjacent parcels. F, noise. Noise levels caused by the CSES measured at the property line shall not exceed 60 decibels when located adjacent to the existing residence or residential district. G, installation and design. The CSES shall be designed and located in such a fashion as to prevent glare toward any inhabited buildings or adjacent properties as well as adjacent roadways. H, utility connections. Reasonable effort shall be made to place all utility connections from the solar installation underground depending on appropriate soil conditions, shape and topography of the site, distance to the connection or other conditions or requirements. I, outdoor storage. Only the outdoor storage of materials, vehicles, and equipment that directly support the operation and maintenance of the CSES shall be allowed. J, endangered species and wetlands. Applicants shall seek natural resource consultation with the Iowa Department of Natural Resources. K, weed control. Applicant must present an acceptable weed grass control plan for property inside and outside fenced area for the entire property. The operating company during the operation of the solar farm must maintain the fence and adhere to the weed control plan. L, cleaning chemicals and solvents. During operation of the proposed installation, all chemicals or solvents used to clean photovoltaic panels shall be low in volatile organic compounds, and the operator shall use recyclable or biodegradable products to the extent possible. Any on-site storage of chemicals or solvents shall be referenced on the site plan. 2, avoidance and mitigation of damages to public infrastructure. A, road use agreements. All county roads that will be used for the construction and maintenance purposes shall be identified on the site plan. All routes for either ingress or egress shall be shown. The CWECS shall obtain applicable weight and size permits from the impacted road authorities prior to construction. The applicant must complete and provide a pre-construction baseline survey of the county roads that will be used for construction purposes, including photographs to determine existing road conditions for assessing potential future damage due to developmental related traffic. The applicant shall provide a road repair plan to restore any county roads damaged during construction to a condition that is as close as reasonably possible to the conditions of the road shown in the pre-construction baseline survey. The applicant is responsible for ongoing road maintenance and dust control measures identified by the Henry County engineer in its reasonable discretion during all phases of construction. 2B, required financial security. The applicant shall be responsible for restoring or paying damages as agreed to by the applicable road authorities sufficient to resolve the roads and bridges to pre-construction condition. Financial security in a manner approved by the Henry County Attorney's Office shall be submitted covering 130% of the cost of all required improvements. This requirement may be waived by the Board of Adjustment by recommendations from the Henry County Engineer. 3, soil erosion and sediment control. The applicant agrees to conduct all road work and other site development work in compliance with the National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System, NPDES permit, as required by the State Department of Natural Resources and comply with requirements as detailed by local jurisdictional authorities during the plan submitted. If subject to the NPDES requirements, the applicant must submit the permit for review and comment and an erosion and sediment control plan before beginning construction. The plan must include both general best maintenance practices for temporary erosion and sediment control, both during and after construction, and permanent drainage and erosion control measures to prevent both damage to local roads and adjacent areas and sediment-laden runoff into waterways. 4, drainage system. The applicant shall be responsible for immediate repair of drainage or public drainage systems stemming from construction, operation, or maintenance of the CSES.
Right, but there's a duplicate paragraph right there, so I'll fix that.
Discontinue, where are we at, Joe?
It says 4 and then it says 4.
Oh, 4,
It's a
it does.
duplicate.
I'm sorry.
And in the next sentence, and I know the previous reference is CWES, it should be CSES, it's just typos. I'll correct those.
On 4?
Yeah, the next sentence is gonna say
Yeah.
CWES, it should say CSES. And it
Okay.
did that on the previous page, I'm keeping
Okay.
track of my typos, so I
Okay.
can correct those as we go.
5, discontinuation and decommissioning. A CSES shall be considered a discontinued use, after 1 year without energy production unless a plan is developed and submitted to the director outlining the steps and schedule for returning the CSES to the service. The CSES owner, or representative shall provide the county with a notice of abandonment as soon as practicable after the decision to discontinue the CSES. 5B, all CSES and accessory facilities shall be removed to 4 feet below ground level within 180 days of the discontinuation of use. Each CSES shall have a decommissioning plan outlining the anticipated means and cost of removing the CSES at the end of their serviceable life or upon being a discontinued use. 5C, the plan shall describe any agreement with the landowner regarding equipment removal upon lease termination. 5D, the cost estimates to decommission the CSES shall be made by a professional engineer licensed in the state of Iowa and approved by the county. A performance bond or equivalent financial instrument approved by Henry County shall be posted in an amount determined by Henry County. The bond shall be in favor of Henry County in the amount of at least $1 million and shall contain a replenishment obligation. 5E, the county reserves the right to verify the adequate decommissioning terms as contained in the landowner easement. 6-2-11-4, requirements for commercial wind energy conversion system within the alternate energy overlay district. 1, general requirements for CWECS. A, color and finish. Wind turbines shall be painted a non-reflective color. Blades may be black in order to facilitate de-icing. Finishes shall be matte or non-reflective. At CWECS sites, the design of the buildings and related structures shall, to the extent reasonably possible, use materials, colors, textures, screening, and landscaping that will blend the CWECS to the natural setting and existing environment. Exceptions may be made for meteorological towers where concerns exist relative to aerial spray applicators. B, tower configuration. All wind turbines which are part of the CWECS shall be installed with a tubular monopole type tower. Meteorologically, towers may be guided wires. Lighting. CWECS sites shall not be artificially lighted except to the extent required by the FAA or other applicable authority. Lighting, including lighting intensity and frequency of strobe, shall adhere but not exceed requirements established by the Federal Aviation Administration permits and regulations. Red strobe lights are preferred for nighttime illumination to reduce impacts on migrating birds. Red pulsating incandescent lights should be avoided. Exceptions may be made for meteorological towers where concerns exist relative to aerial spray applicators. D, signage. The manufacturer or owner's company name and or logo may be placed upon the compartment containing the electrical generator of the CWECS. Wind turbines shall not be used for displaying any advertising except for reasonable identification of the manufacturer or operator of the CWECS sites. Feeder lines. All communications and feeder lines equal to or less than 34.5 kV in capacity installed as part of the CWECS shall be buried. Waste disposal. Solid and hazardous waste, including but not limited to crates, packaging materials, damaged or worn parts, as well as used oils and lubricants shall be removed from the site in a time period as established by the Henry County Health Department and disposed of in accordance with all applicable local, state, and federal regulations. G, minimum ground clearance. The blade tip of any wind turbine shall, at its lowest point, have ground clearance of no less than 50 feet. H, signal interference. The applicant shall minimize and mitigate any interference with electromagnetic communications such as radio, telephone, or television signals caused by any CWECS. Federal Aviation Administration, all CWECS shall comply with FAA standards and permits. J, electrical codes and standards, all CWECS and accessory equipment and facilities shall comply with the National Electrical Code and other applicable standards. K, setbacks. The following setbacks and separation requirements shall apply to all wind turbines and meteorological towers, provided that the Board of Adjustment, upon recommendation by the Commission, may reduce the standard setbacks and separation requirements if the intent of this ordinance would be better served thereby. All other structures shall comply with the applicable setbacks as defined by the base zone district. Structures. Each wind turbine and meteorological tower shall be set back from the nearest residence, school, hospital, church, or public library, a distance no less than the greater of A, 2 times its total height, or B, 1,000 feet. Property lines. At no time shall any part of the wind turbine and meteorological tower overhanging an adjoining property without securing appropriate easements from adjoining property owners. Public right-of-way. Setbacks from public right-of-way, railroads, power lines, and structures shall be a minimum of 1.1 times the height of the tower and rotor. Communications and electrical lines. Each wind turbine and meteorological tower shall be set back from the nearest above-ground public electric power line or telephone line at a distance no less than 1.1 times its total height determined from the existing power line or telephone line. Noise. Audible noise due to CWECS site operations shall not exceed an average of 60 dBA measured over a 15-minute period when measured at least 25 feet from the outside wall of any dwelling, school, hospital, church, or public library existing on the date of approval of rezoning to the alternate energy overlay district. In the event audible noise due to CWECS operation contains a steady, pure tone such as a whine, screech, or hum, the standards of audible noise set forth in the subparagraphs of this subsection shall be reduced by 5 dBA. In the event of ambient noise level, exclusive of the development in question, exceeds the applicable standard given above, the applicable standard shall be adjusted so as to equal the ambient noise level. The ambient noise level shall be expressed in terms of the highest whole number sound pressure level in dBA, which is succeeded for more than 5 minutes per hour. Ambient noise level shall be measured at the exterior of potential effects existing residences, schools, hospitals, churches, and public libraries. Ambient noise level measurement techniques shall employ all practicable means of reducing the effect of wind-generated noise at the microphone. Ambient noise level measurements may be performed when wind velocities at the proposed project site are sufficient to allow wind turbine operation, provided that the wind velocity does not exceed 30 miles an hour at the ambient noise measurement location.
Greg. Ma'am. If you're gonna talk, would you step back out a little bit, cause it kind of funnels in through here in the room, so.
I think that's the people
Yeah,
out there.
whoever's doing it out there, it kind of echoes around and.
Okay, I'll proceed. In the event the noise level resulting from the CWECS exceed the criteria listed above, a waiver to said levels may be granted by the Board of Adjustment upon recommendation by the Commission, provided that the following has been accomplished. Written consent from the affected property owners has been obtained stating that they are aware of the CWECS and the noise limitations imposed by this ordinance, and that consent is granted to allow noise levels to exceed the maximum limits otherwise allowed. And B, if the applicant wishes the waiver to apply to succeeding owners of the property, a permanent noise impact easement shall be recorded in the office of the Henry County Recorder, which describes the burdened properties and which advises all subsequent owners of the burdened property that noise levels in excess of those permitted by this ordinance may exist on or at the burdened property. Safety. All wiring between wind turbines and the CWECS substation shall be underground. If the applicant can demonstrate the need for an overhead line and the acceptance of landowners for this line, such option may be approved conditionally by the Board of Adjustment. Wind turbines and meteorological towers shall not be climbable up to 15 feet above ground level. All access doors to wind turbines and meteorological towers and electrical equipment shall be locked when not being serviced. Appropriate warning signage shall be placed on all wind turbine towers, electrical equipment, and CWECS entrances. For all CWECS, the manufacturer's engineer or another qualified engineer shall certify that the turbine, foundation, and tower design of the CWECS is within accepted professional standards, given local soil and climate conditions. For all guide towers, visible and reflective objects such as plastic sleeves, reflectors, or tape shall be placed on the guy wire, anchor points, and along the outer and innermost guy wires up to a height of 8 feet above the ground. Visible fencing shall be installed around anchor points of guy wires. The property owner must sign a notarized acknowledgement and consent form allowing construction of the turbine and guide wires without fencing as required by this ordinance to be presented to the Commission and Board of Adjustment. Discontinuation and decommissioning. A CWECS shall be considered a discontinued use after 1 year without energy production, unless a plan is developed and submitted to the director outlining the steps and schedule for returning the CWECS to service. The CWECS owner or representative shall provide the county with a notice of abandonment as soon as practicable after the decision to discontinue the CWECS. All CWECS and accessory facilities shall be removed to 4 feet below ground level within 180 days of a discontinuation of use. Each CWECS shall have a decommissioning plan outlining the anticipated means and cost of removing CWECS at the end of their serviceable life or upon becoming a discontinued use. The plan shall describe any agreement with the landowner regarding equipment removal upon lease termination. The cost estimates to decommission the CWECS shall be made by a professional engineer licensed in the state of Iowa and approved by the county. The plan shall also identify the financial resources be available to pay for the decommissioning and removal of the CWECS and accessory facilities. A performance bond or equivalent financial instrument approved by Henry County shall be posted in a reasonable amount determined by Henry County. The bond shall be in favor of Henry County in the amount of at least $1 million and shall contain a replenishment obligation. The county reserves the right to verify the adequate reasonable decommissioning terms are contained in the landowner easement. Avoidance and mitigation of damages to public infrastructure. Road use agreements. All county roads that will be used for the construction and maintenance purposes shall be identified on the site plan. All routes for either ingress or egress shall be shown. The CWESC shall obtain applicable weight and size permits from the impacted road authorities prior to construction. The applicant must complete and provide a pre-construction baseline survey of the county roads that will be used for construction purposes, including photographs to determine existing road conditions for assessing potential future damage due to developmental related traffic. The applicant shall provide a road repair plan to restore any county roads damaged during construction to a condition that is as close as reasonably possible to the condition of the road shown on the pre-construction baseline survey. The applicant is responsible for ongoing road maintenance and dust control measures identified by the Henry County engineer in reasonable discretion during all phases of construction. B, drainage system. The applicant shall be responsible for immediate repair of damage to public drainage system stemming from construction, operation, or maintenance of the CWECS. Required financial security. Applicant shall be responsible for restoring or paying damages as agreed to by the applicable road authorities sufficient to restore the roads and bridges to pre-construction conditions. Reasonable financial security, which may consist of a bond, guarantee, or letter of credit in the form approved by Henry County Attorney's Office, shall be submitted prior to the commencement of construction, covering 130% of the cost of all repairs anticipated by the road repair plan submitted by the applicant. This requirement may be waived by the Board of Adjustment by recommendation from the Henry County Engineer. 6-2-11-5 ongoing maintenances and waste removal. 1. Maintenance, repair or replacement of a CSES or CWECS facility. Maintenance shall include but not be limited to painting, structural repairs, and integrity of security measures. Site access shall be maintained to a level accessible to emergency response officials. Any retrofit, replacement, or refurbishment of equipment shall adhere to all applicable local, state, and federal requirements. Maintenance, repair, or replacement of a CSES or CWECS facility. Maintenance shall include but not be limited to painting, structural repairs. Oops, we got another.
Yeah.
We got another
Got no
duplicate.
I'll take that
B,
out of the way.
waste. All solid waste, whether generated from supplies, equipment parts, packaging, operation or maintenance or replacement from any and all parts of the CSES or CWECS shall be removed from the site and disposed of in an appropriate manner. All hazardous waste generated by the operation, initial construction shall be removed from the site within 12 months. Waste generated by ongoing operation, maintenance, or replacement of any and all parts shall be removed from the site within 60 days. All hazardous waste shall be removed from the site immediately and disposed of in a manner consistent with all local, state, and federal requirements. Six,
That first hazardous in there should not be there.
yeah, that's, okay. That's, I read that and I think that doesn't
Yeah,
sound.
no, it doesn't, we'll correct that.
Okay. 6-2-11-6 indemnification and liability. The applicant, owner, and or operator of the CSES or CWECS project shall defend, indemnify, and hold harmless the County of Henry and its official form and against any and all claims, demands, losses, suits, causes of action, damages, injuries, costs, expenses, and liabilities whatsoever, including attorney fees without limitation, arising out of actions or omissions of the applicant, owner, and or operator associated with construction and or operation of the CSES or CWECS project. The repealer, all other ordinances or part of ordinances in conflict with the provisions of this ordinance are hereby repealed. So I'll finish up and then we'll go back here. Severability clause. If any section, provision, or part of this ordinance shall be adjudged invalid or unconstitutional, such adjudication shall not affect the validity of the ordinance as a whole or any part thereof not adjudged invalid or unconstitutional. When effective, the ordinance shall be effective after its final passage, approval, and publication by law. Okay, I have this. This is not the first reading. Let me make that adamantly clear. Even though I read the ordinance, okay, the proposed change to our current ordinance. The first reading was not supposed to take place until, but we have a large number of citizens of the county here. And we are in public hearing. So I'm going to have Mark and Chad and Joe. I would like comment from the public. I would like it to be concise and limited, since the number of people we have here is a little overwhelming. All right, we don't normally have this many people at our meetings. But thanks for coming.
State your name.
Yes, please state your name and whomever. Diana?
My name is Diana Burden, and appreciate being able to come. There's so many limitations that I see that's not good. For one, they're dependent upon the weather, and there was one local wind turbine that was put up not too far from us, and the blades blew off multiple times. There's nothing that isn't going to have weather damage out here. We're dependent upon the wind, but it can't run all the time. People get in to the contracts and they can't get out of them if they sell their property. That's not a good use of our land. Also, the fact that the property is surrounding them, they're dependent upon what the company does, and the company isn't even local, and they could go bankrupt. So I don't support this, and I will allow my chair to go to someone else.
Thank you. We're in public hearing.
Leland Graver. I ran into a guy the other day and said he wished he had a place to put a windmill, and I asked him why. He said the money. And I think that's the only reason people sign up. They're not considered their family, friends, neighbors, down the road, what are they gonna do if somebody wants to buy a part of their land and build? They don't wanna live by that thing. And, what's it gonna do to the environment, the wildlife, livestock? You know, I got it, you read your ordinance, but I don't think that's gonna cover everything. It's gonna be a problem, and, I don't know if anybody wants to live in the county with those things, so.
Okay, thank you. Yes, sir.
Eric LaFollette. I'm a little disappointed that I'm just finding out about all this, been going on for a while. Literally, my property will be surrounded by these. I wouldn't be able to sit on my porch without staring at these things. And if I'd known, and the neighboring property was never listed for sale. It suddenly changed hands to some investor in Maryland that signed on for this. I would have bought the land if I'd known it was gonna be going to this. You know, it's like, you know, I'm just real disappointed that haven't you heard about this? And what are our options gonna be? You know, if you don't wanna, I don't wanna sit on my front porch and stare at these things.
Okay, thank you.
Can I say something to that? I'm Donna Preston, and it's been over a year ago, hadn't it, that the wind towers came in here and talked to several of the companies? And it was, but I don't know why you're not hearing about it, because I came to several of those meetings. It was in their minutes and in their agendas. You know, people need to pay a little more attention to what's going on around, and you know, it's already a done deal. We're just adjusting the ordinance. Is that correct?
We have it.
That's not a,
I can
There's
assure
an
you there's a lot of
ordinance-
people that don't even know about it right now.
There's an ordinance on the book right now.
Yes.
What this ordinance would do, provided we approve it, okay, after 3 readings, it would change or amend the ordinance to meet the guidelines which I had just read.
Okay, so I have one more question. Are you sure 4 feet is low enough to have them remove that? I thought it was more than
That's part of your
that.
public comment.
95% of this ordinance already exists.
Right, but there are,
There are tweaks to this ordinance. Most of this is already on the books. We've made a few slight adjustments, to the language.
and I referred to it's in book page 262, or in book, books 266 at page 1.
The current ordinance is online in our code of ordinances, and the proposed change is also online, so you can look at both of them and go through them and see what the changes are.
Yes,
Hi,
ma'am.
I'm Dorothy Winger, and I would like confirmation of how tall these are actually going to be. Because the ones that we're seeing, like in Illinois and northern Iowa and Minnesota, like those are 300 feet. And from what I've heard, these are 650 from tip to base. And I want confirmation on that, because that's taller than the arch in St. Louis.
I understand.
I want to make it clear to start with, there is no application for a wind farm at this point. I know that they're looking at options and so on, and they're doing their research, but we don't have any legal application for anything at this point. So there's nothing official on the books.
So there's nothing official on the height of these turbines.
About 700 feet.
There's, as far as the county's
Oh,
concerned, there
700
is.
feet, wow, that's a lot
And
taller
until
than
see it, everybody see it 10 miles
until
away.
we get,
Let's not interrupt each other.
until we
please.
get an actual application, there is nothing official. Once we have an actual application for a wind farm, it will state the height and the separation distances and all these other things listed in the ordinance, but
So
at
the
this point,
people that signed on really don't have any idea how tall that wind turbine's
They-
gonna
they
be?
may-
That's
they
just
may.
like
they
Russian roulette.
may, but as far as the county's concerned, we don't have anything official, but there is no application for a wind farm. There's talk of one. They're taking out easements for one. It may come to an application. It probably will. But until that's officially on our desk, we don't have anything official to apply this ordinance to.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Matt, can you address that at all? What the
Yeah.
height of the turbines in this area would be?
Yeah, definitely. So we look at different models. Sorry, I'm Matthew Spockbonici, the developer for RWE and for this project. So with wind farms out there, they're not all the same make and model manufacturer. You have GE, General Electric, American company. You have Vestas, that's a Netherlands company. In our fleet, we have, I believe, 35 wind projects, over 3,200 turbines in that fleet. Half of them are GE turbines. Those are from 2008 until we just used some that were 650 foot in New York. That's called Barron Winds. So depending on the market, what's available, we could be using GE, we could be using Vestas, but if their models are different, maybe we're using a 4.5 turbine, maybe we're using a 5.0. If you use a higher turbine capacity like a 5.0 at 650, we only need maybe 55 turbines rather than say a same manufacturer GE at a 3.4, you're looking at about 500 feet, but you need say close to 100 of them. So would you rather have more turbines or less turbines with the increase in height? And when you're looking, it could be negligible when you're looking at a horizon. So to your question, we do not know until when we are applying for the application. We'll know at that time what manufacturer we would be using, what's available on the market at that time.
May I ask a question? That the towers that you have out now that are measuring, and please use the word because it's eluding me, measuring the winds at the present time, will they also be helping you make that determination as to the height of the towers as well as the number of towers?
Yep, correct. So those are meteorological towers. There's two out there right now. One west of Olds, 218 and 78, and then the other one is on 78 just south of Winfield. Those are measuring different distant heights because on there you have the wind direction, pressure, wind speed, and all that equipment will measure at different heights all the way up to, I don't know the tip, but we can go 650, definitely get those wind measurements there.
You had a question first, I'm sorry.
Okay, my son has hearing aids. My wife has hearing aids, and I have hearing aids. I don't have mine in. But what's the effect on all that? I mean, the sound, the noise, all that. I've been reading up on that, and I've heard that that's actually not good for hearing aid. People with hearing aids, or the light. The flashing from the wind blow blades going around. Or, you're sitting in your house in the middle of the night and you get your windows open, trying to catch that nice summer breeze, and here you are, your room keeps flashing red. I mean, that just don't sound very feasible for me. And I'm actually looking for buying a piece of property out in the country, and I don't want any of these near me at all. I mean, there's actually some places stating that you should be 300 kilometers away from these towers, which is 1.8 miles for your house to be. So what's the actual? I mean, you can be 300 feet, or are you supposed to be 1.8 miles away from your resident, or with your resident?
So are we doing a Q&A, because we can respond to some of these?
Yeah.
Or...
No, it's just public comment,
Okay.
and it's in regards to the ordinance which I just read.
But
So
happy to
I understand,
I'm sorry, my
I
name is
understand,
Grant.
I appreciate
Yeah.
everyone's input. And this lady was next, I'm sorry.
Okay, Linda Sharp, and I'm a teacher 50+ years, so I want to make this really understood, because I want to make sure I understand what you say. Some of these people are they going to do this no matter what, or are you guys going to determine if anyone's going to do it? Are some of these people already, they're going to definitely have it no matter what we say, or is it still on the table if this will go? In other words, if more people don't want it, do we have any say?
The board here, whenever this comes in front of us, if it comes in front of us. Yeah, it comes to planning and zoning, and then they bring their recommendation to us, either a yay or an nay. We do have the final say as to whether to approve it or disapprove. So this board, the Board of Supervisors, has the final say. After it goes, if they take out permits or whatever to start the process, okay? Goes to P and Z, okay, and they say yay, okay, then it comes to us with their recommendation. If they say nay, it will come to us.
Who does the average citizen then talk to if they're in favor of it or not in favor of it? How do we make our voice known?
Greg, if I may.
Sure, go ahead.
If we receive an application, when I receive that, I will schedule a hearing with Planning and Zoning Commission. That will be a public hearing, open to everyone. They will hold that public hearing. They're required by law to hold one public hearing. I'm assuming based on the number of people here, there will probably be several public hearings. How many, that'll probably be determined by the crowd and how many we need to hear everybody. Once they've heard everything, they will make a recommendation. Yes, no, yes with modifications, it will depend. Whatever that recommendation is, will come to the Board of Supervisors. By law, they are required to hold one public hearing, which they will do. And they can hold as many as they want. If you want to hold 10 public hearings, you can hold as many as you like, but there'll be at least one, and I'm assuming multiple. After the end of those public hearings, they will do a first reading, just like the first reading for this. There'll be a first reading to rezone to this overlay district. First reading, second reading, third reading, before it's final. So there will be, by law, there's a minimum of five meetings to pass this, by law. By reality, it's probably gonna be many times that.
So just to sum it up, you're saying this is not a done deal?
No.
No, it's not a done deal. Okay, that's what I need to comprehend. Thank you very much.
And one thing with what Joe said, the accessibility of the meetings, I for one would like to see some scheduled in alternate times of the day. Most everybody here is working class people. Have some of those meetings scheduled at different times to allow attendance by those people.
We have in the past also with things like this, we could even go to, community center, Winfield, at different locations nearby to hold several different hearings. So those are always options. We don't have to have them here. We can vary the times and locations too. We can have as many as we need to get everybody heard.
Is everyone hearing what Joe is saying? Okay, yes, sir.
Well, are you gonna take,
Your name?
Paul Miller from Mountain
Thank you.
Union, are you gonna take a consensus of the people here in this room, yes or yay or no, yay or nay, with any of our opinions of what we think today?
There's plenty of people too.
This is the place to speak about any of the ordinances that you hear pro or con, either way, speak of the ordinances that you're reading.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not really for it, so, but I just wondered if you're gonna get the yay or nay of everybody in this room, or not.
In the building.
I don't think that's not the purpose here.
Okay.
I guess I would encourage or recommend, if you wish, to give your opinion, your yes or no, against or for the project. You are welcome to email the supervisors at henrycountyiowa.us. They're in our system, so yay or nay. We can then do an accounting of that personally, rather than count 15 people here, or 26 over here for yay or nay. That, or you could send it also to Joe Buffington, jbuffington@henrycountyiowa.us. So we appreciate your input on behalf of all the citizens in the county.
Pass them around the emails in there.
I just want to be on record saying we're representing RWE with these proposed changes that have been approved, by your board, supervisor and planning commission to you. I do approve or recommend your approval for this ordinance as written.
Yes, sir.
They can all be found on the Henry County, Iowa website.
Yeah.
Just a clarification and back to your ordinance. You talked about disassembling of a unit or taking it down a year after it's no longer in your use, and then there was 180 days. Was that a year then it starts clock on 180 days?
If it's not been generating electricity for a year, and that's somewhat of an open question because it's not necessarily obvious. It may come to my attention 6 months after it's stopped generating, and I'll start my year clock at that point. But once we've determined that it officially hasn't operated for a year, we're assuming they're gonna tell us anyway. But in case that they don't, once that year ends, we will notify them they have to disassemble it, and they will have 180 days to remove that.
Also, a comment was made about 4 feet deep, or taking it down, everything down to 4 foot below ground. I think that's a little short. I'm thinking 5 or 6 would be a better number.
I think I had a lady and Roger. I'm not sure who was first. Go ahead, lady in the back.
This
In
is
your name-
trivial,
in your name,
but,
please.
oh, I'm sorry, Ellen Spence, this is kind of trivial, but our land that they're looking at borders Skunk River, and there's eagles' nests on Skunk River. So what do they do if they go ahead with it and they get down there and there's an eagle's nest up there?
That would basically fall under your federal, I think, migratory bird.
Migratory birds, US.
Probably U.S. Fish and Wildlife
Wildlife
Service.
Management.
Okay? Roger.
Roger Sharp. I agree with what Mr. Graber said back here a while ago, 100% about concerning effects on humans, the effect on the habitat, the effect on the animals that are in the area, whether it be ground animals, flying animals, or whatever. I think it's gonna have a terrible, terrible effect on all of these things. And one other thought is, where's the electricity that's generated from these going? Is it going to Winfield? Is it going to Mount Pleasant?
It doesn't stay here.
Or is it going to Chicago?
Does Illinois?
I can answer that. So electricity works, it goes in the path of least resistance. So it hits a substation if it's owned by a Alliant or any other company, co-op that's here as well. At that substation, if the energy is needed, it's gonna disperse on the utility lines to homes, to businesses here. Now it's creating so much energy and maybe not all of it is needed here, so it will maybe go onto the grid, but it's MISO. MISO covers MISO covers Wisconsin, Minnesota, Iowa, Illinois, and parts of Missouri. Energy can go anywhere within there. So it hits the grid, it can be dispersed. It's not like coal energy hits the grid and it's going to one place. It's being dispersed as well. So the energy here that's generating can power these very lights in this room. There's gonna be so much that it can go, to Burlington, elsewhere. So yes and no to your question. And no one can officially, we're just selling the commodity to whoever wants to buy it. If it's a company here in Mount Pleasant or Burlington, whoever wants to buy our energy, we will sell it to you. So, yes and no to your question.
Jacob Nye from New London. I think you guys covered a lot of things in your ordinance here as far as setbacks for both solar and wind. I mean, I know there's a lot of concerns with these projects out there. One that I do not see, and I know it probably wouldn't be covered in an ordinance, but upon approval of any application, utilization of local labor. If we are gonna build these projects, let's make sure it's us building them, so.
Jeff Olson, we and my cousins who I farm with and have signed up, we had an extensive analysis of this company. I'm the reputation of this company, I think they are gonna follow what they say. They're gonna do what they say. We also were concerned with the people that work for them. My wife Gail, who's testifying for Farm Bill today, couldn't be here, but she went on the trip and was very impressed with the way they treated their employees in the Illinois wind farm they visited. That is important to us.
Okay, sorry, I
Thank
will
you.
like to state, if anyone wants to go to a wind farm, we have a facility, a nice one, 2017 built, in Decatur, Illinois. If you're for the project, against it, supervisors, I welcome anyone. We had in, I believe it was September 2022, about 30 landowners that, some of them signed on to the project, some did not, but I'm just glad people came out to witness a wind farm for yourself. Talk to our operation manager as well. I'll take you down the access road to a turbine. We'll open up the doors, let you go inside, let you talk. And I'm probably raising my voice more than you need to underneath the turbine. I have videos of it I can share. I'll take you out there and you can see how we can turn a turbine off in less than 2 minutes and start it back up in 2 minutes. But you're more than welcome. Just come up to me after.
How tall are those turbines in Decatur, Illinois?
Those are, I want to say Vestas 3.4s, 492 height, 492 feet.
Okay,
And
so
those
it's
are
not nearly as
3.4.
tall as ones that we're talking about.
No, but that's from 2017. So as innovation moves out forward, we're looking at newer
But
models.
it makes a difference.
The higher you go, I mean, it will make a difference generating more electricity, less sound because it's higher up in the air. You're not gonna hear it as much from the ground. So yes, there's differences in many different aspects. Yes. Thank you. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Bill Crawford, you just stated the noise will be less the taller they are at the ground level.
Well, it depends on the make and model.
Then
Yeah.
why is the ordinance changed to get the blade lower to the ground?
Because it captures more energy, because the blade's longer, it's gonna generate more energy, and that would help us with not having as many turbines out there.
But doesn't it stand to reason if it's lower to the ground, it's gonna create more turbulence and noise at that level? Where we have our ears open?
So I'm Julie Dren, I'm the outreach manager for RWE for this project. I think we're referring to like the nacelle, like the motor, like so technically the most sound should be coming from that. So that will be higher up. But the blade, I mean, with the blade length, I have not heard of increasing noise on the ground from increased blade length.
What about the generator? Don't these all have ground mounted generators?
No.
So there's a transformer.
Yeah, so the generator where it's producing electricity is up in the south, and that's where the sound comes from.
Yeah, there's a whoosh, there's a perceived slower blades as they get longer. So the whoosh sound is different. I think some people think it sounds a little lower, a little more calming actually. So that's a benefit to the longer blades as well. But yeah, there's the transformer on the ground does not make noise. That's just to move the electricity.
Yes, sir.
Clayton Garrett, and let's just say that this does go through and my neighbor builds one. Can any eminent domain be used on my property at all?
No.
And no eminent domain is used for this project. This is all voluntarily. If a landowner says they don't want to sign up, we go to someone else. Yep.
Yes, sir.
Can I play just a little video clip of the sound of the blades going around?
Sure.
At 1,600 feet away?
Sure.
I mean,
No, I don't.
oh, I can't do that?
We're really talking about the ordinance.
Well, the longer the blade is, the
this
lower
is
the
what the
ground, the more noise it's gonna make. I
This
mean,
is
that's
what
just
the-
plain and simple.
This is what the public comment.
They want longer blades, so.
So on the ordinance, the fact that you're going to this trouble to do this, you pretty much, it's gonna happen. Or you guys wouldn't be changing the ordinance.
No one said
right?
that.
It's not a done deal, he
There's
said.
been no vote even on changing the ordinance at this point in time. Go ahead, Derek.
Derek Mullen, and thank you, Joe, and the supervisors for explaining the process here some. As far as the ordinance goes, I am not in favor of decreasing the minimum ground clearance from 75 feet to 50 feet. And the setback distances, I would be in favor of a half mile from a residence and a mile from a town or a municipality. My question is, you guys are not taking action on this today, is that correct? There'll be more readings?
Correct, that's correct.
All right, thank you guys.
This is just the first public hearing.
Behind you,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Lynn Humphreys, and I'm on Lexington near Olds, between Olds and Winfield, so basically 218 and 78, just to kind of give you a perspective. If you look at the map, my husband and I own the 4 acres that are the little white dots surrounded by a lot of color. And so my concern, because we own the property, operate a business there, we live there, have resided there for 30-ish years, almost 30 years. So we've built quite a business there. We've restored a 1905 farmhouse, a lot of money invested in that multiple times. I know the interest in the wind because we've been damaged multiple times and had to repair it multiple times, most recently this year, or within the last year. So I've got those concerns. I've also got concerns, even though it's addressed in the ordinance about the radio waves. Want to get my favorite KILJ in there, of course, but the internet, all those services that certainly impact the way that we do things daily, and I see that they're in there, but I'm not convinced that that's all going to be resolved, because we have enough concerns right now, even living in the country the way it is with getting services. You can ask my children who are just home from college about the internet and the service. So those are all my concerns. You started off, I think in the ordinance, it talks about protects property values. And so my concern is, what does that do to protect my 4 acres that is surrounded by farm ground when I want to sell it, and like this gentleman so stated, he may want to buy a property in the country, he's not going to buy it. He's not going to buy mine when it's surrounded by turbines, and that's our investment. You know, we've lived there 30 years. We put all of our hard work and money into that, and I've got a big concern with that. And back to, I appreciate Jeff's comments about the way that they treated their employees, but I did reach out to Matthew a week, 8 days ago. He responded promptly and told me that there were agents always in the area and they would reach out. I've yet to hear from them, so I can only believe that's because I'm 4 acres and I'm not of interest, and so that concerns me a little bit.
Any further comments? Otherwise, okay, one.
Holly Jones. I just wanted to express my concern as someone who is in an interesting position as a property owner on Henry County and Washington County. Our home is on the Washington County side, and I know we're Henry County here, but I'm worried for all of my neighbors in Washington County who aren't getting any voice in this, when there's some property that's literally right up next to where our house that's being considered for this. So that's one concern that I have. The second is that I'm a business owner, and we invite folks onto our property in Washington County as a flower farm. Part of our business model is that we have photographers come and take pictures of our beautiful sunsets that overlook the landscape that could now be permanently changed. And another point of concern is that, you know, as a 5th generation living on this farm, that we're letting a company, respectfully, you all are doing a wonderful job articulating your points today, that is coming from outside of our county, outside of our area, to dictate how our land is going to be used. I respect that landowners are consenting to the use of their land, but this is a long-term change to our home, to our business, to our families that have been here for generations. And it just breaks my heart that this is how, that we are being influenced like this as a community by an outside corporation. The last point, I forget the last point I was going to make there, but I just can't help but think that we're not thinking through on how this is going to impact the long-term value of our properties and the families that are living on them. Oh, I know the last thing I was going to say. The thing that your ordinance really fails to capture is the quality of life that's going to be impacted. I see the decibels, I see the I see all the numbers that are written in there and, you know, very, I think thoroughly explained. But, you know, talking about listening to the wind blowing at night, I don't want to hear the low decibels of a wind turbine. I want to hear the birds. I want to hear the wind blowing, the corn blowing all around us. I don't want that. So as respectfully, as much as this ordinance is, you know, very clear on what it can and can't do, it speaks volumes for what it can't articulate. And that's the quality of life in our rural county. Thank you.
I will reiterate, if anyone has questions or yays, nays, however you want to put it, please email us, please email Joe. Go to the, should it get to the point where RWE brings forth a permitting process to go through the process, go to those public meetings, because that's the place where your voice is heard. I know it's, I'll just say, we've never had this many people at our meetings in my 11 plus years serving as supervisors, and I know Mark can speak. It is a monumental change to the landscape of the county, if it takes place. Go ahead, Mayor.
Diane Ensminger. So you're saying at the next meeting, we can address some of these concerns and hear their reply to them? Because we're not, I think there's a lot of misinformation, quite frankly.
You can.
Okay, thank you.
Could we offer to just, you know, I know, and you guys had the great idea of doing a town hall in October of 2022. We would gladly do another town hall. So if we want to have a Q&A, we're open to that for sure.
Just a couple more, and then we're gonna close.
So,
Go ahead,
okay,
sir.
so Brian Messer, I'm a landowner. I've got many comments to address some of the comments being made, but that's not the forum. We're here about the ordinance.
Right.
So as the ordinance is stated, I support it.
Okay, thank you. Yes,
I
ma'am.
would just like to hear from some of the people that actually have the wind farm as you go to, there's a bunch of those as you go from, what road is that?
I-80 going to Moines.
Yeah, and no, even more local, over toward New London, isn't there?
There's only just one tower over New London, and that's city owned.
Okay, but it'd be nice to hear from people that actually live around that.
And I think Matthew has brought up that he is more than willing to take people over there. I mean, you'll have to connect with,
I want them to come here though.
okay, but.
Some
if you-
people that have lived around it, human beings,
Sure,
little people.
I understand that,
Okay.
because if you took you on site, you would also then
Be able to hear it.
Yeah.
be able to hear the noises that they're generating at their turbines. So, any
How
other
many
thing?
landowners that want these built on your property is, I mean, what is your reasoning for wanting them? Why? Is it just the money? Is that it?
Better than a hog confinement.
There's still hog confinements everywhere. It doesn't matter. Who's benefits?
Okay, one at a time here, one at a time.
Okay.
My name is Marilyn Young. I'm a landowner. I thoroughly researched this because around our farm we have family and close friends and live there forever. And I went to Illinois, and we have a son that lives in the midst of a wind farm for years now, Downs, Illinois. His school system benefits so much from this, and his county. They can explain how much we will get. I'm more thinking money for Henry County. Noise factor, I drove up to a windmill, got out, stood under it. The windmill was going fast. I did not hear this loud sound. Now we live in town, and some of our family lives on our farm. We put up with coal trains going through this town that are so loud every day, and I didn't hear any noise. I even walked around and tried to find dead birds. I didn't find one dead bird. I went to New London and went to under their
little windmill. And then I even went to the office and said, have you had any complaints from any of the people that live around there on this? And they said no. So I researched this company. I spent months, and I'm doing it because I know we need coal for energy. I know we need wind energy.
We do not need wind energy.
Well, that's your
We do
opinion.
not need wind energy.
You have comments in regard to ordinance? Otherwise, I'm going to ask to go out of public hearing.
Fossil fuels.
I would entertain a motion to go out of public hearing. So moved. Do I have a second?
There's a couple comments I would like to ask, because I don't know. When it comes to the lighting issues, is there something about aircraft proximity type thing where they can turn those on when an aircraft is in that general proximity and then they go off?
Yes, sir. So it's actually being reviewed by the FAA right now. That was submitted, that technology in 2017, so it's still being reviewed. And if that's something that you want to put into your ordinance, we would do that. And yes, that system that's in every aircraft today. It would notify one or two of our towers on the outskirts would have that system. And if an aircraft gets within 30 nautical miles, they start blinking. But if there's no aircraft, then they will go black.
And there are wind farms with this technology up already, so you'll go drive through and you don't see them blink at night.
That includes helicopters and air care, because we have quite a bit of that traffic.
Yes.
Then on a feeder line, it looked like it was specifically put out that on feeder lines equal to or less than 34.5 kW. I think that's 34,500 volts, right?
Yeah.
Is there a reason that would not be buried?
That is buried.
It is buried.
Yep. And it's common to bury that
Shall
one
be buried.
just under the frost line, so.
Okay, that, perfect.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor. Do I have? I know, I'm asking for a second. Motion on the floor, I'm asking for a second to go out of public hearing.
I'll make that motion.
All right.
Second that
motion. I have a motion and a second on the floor to go out of public hearing. Any discussion?
The only thing I would like to discuss, there is things that have not been brought up today that I'm concerned about from the county perspective, and that is bonding, the same segment on bonding. So I will make sure we'll address that at a later date.
All right, all those in favor of going out of public hearing, respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same signal. I want to thank everyone for coming. Again, if you have any questions, yays, nays, please.
Before the room empties out,
Okay,
is this gonna be the only public hearing on this? I'm assuming yes.
yes, it is the only public hearing on it. We'll have the readings.
What would you like to do first reading?
I would like to wait on that, because I need to clarify some of the bonding questions that I have.
Gives you a week, 2 weeks on it. 15th? First reading on 15th of February. What's on the agenda? Thank you, everyone, for coming.
As you can see, there was a lot of passion, a lot of information, all about windmills here at the Henry County Courthouse in Mount Pleasant, Iowa. And you have to see it all, hour and 7+ minutes. There's more to come. It's not over yet. If you are concerned or you have questions, you heard ways to get your answers. So I encourage you to look into that. I also want to thank our sponsors, Griner Auto Body, Car Doctor, McDonald Boneyard, Hinshaw Trailer Sales, Girling Repair, B&B Propane, and the family of Jet Stops. I'm your host, John Bain. Stay friendly, Southeast Iowa.